And welcome back to another episode of Three Siblings Walk Into a Bar. My name is Sage, and I am the middle sibling.
I'm Storm, the youngest sibling.
I'm Shay, the oldest sibling. Did you forget?
Because
No, I was waiting for the counter to start. Did it take a long time? Did I was pause for a long time?
I thought you were. I don't know why, but I thought you were going to say I'm the oldest sibling. It's just I don't know.
Well, I was sitting there going, "Don't say middle sibling. Don't say middle sibling." And so then when it was my turn, I was like, "Shit, don't say middle sibling." Like, I don't know what to say. What was I supposed to say?
We've been doing this for years. You would think that we would be able to just get it done. You would think.
I mean, you would think,
No.
but we just cannot figure out our lives.
It's been over a year now.
We are getting dangerously close to 100 episodes too.
Yeah.
We need to figure out
that's
something crazy to do.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Look at my shirt.
Oh my god, I love it.
I was going to ask you about. That's really
Look
cute.
what it says.
Oh my, stop
The
it.
lovers.
Oh my god,
That
I love
whole
it.
tarot thing is super popular right now.
Yes,
It is
I have
so
a mermaid
popular.
one too. I got it off TikTok Shop.
I have to stay off TikTok Shop.
Oh, I know, me too.
Mm-hmm.
I will
too.
go bankrupt on that thing.
Yeah,
I clicked on
yeah. I
one
think this-
ad, and it was like my entire FYP was just ads. That was it.
Oh my god, I
Mhm.
know. It
Mhm.
drives me nuts.
It's
I think
crazy.
this is what Matt and I are going to do for Halloween too. Oh, those who can't see, it's Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
And it's a tarot
Frankenstein's
card that says the
monster.
lovers. Frankenstein's
Frankenstein's monster, whatever. Whatever.
You're gonna
Could
be
you
one of
imagine if it
those.
was actual Frankenstein and Frankenstein's Frankenstein's
Exactly.
wife?
It's
Like, we were
just
like,
a
you want to
random
talk about
doctor.
trauma? That's the trauma. Oh gosh.
A random doctor. Some lady. This is Frankenstein and
Some
Frankenstein's
lady.
bride.
It's like one of those pictures or those TikToks and people are like, I'm going to tell my kids this was so-and-so.
Yes, exactly. My favorite
This
one
was the Jonas
is
Brothers.
yes. My favorite one is it's Hanson and it says Nirvana on the top of it.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. It's my favorite.
Listen,
one.
I still will listen to Mbop
Oh
Oh,
my God, yeah.
absolutely.
every so often because it
Yeah.
just like randomly
So
pop in my head, and I'm
influential.
like, tick 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 tick.
Mhm.
Google.
Exactly. That was
Spotify it,
so like huge when we were kids. It was huge.
Oh yeah, yes.
Mhm.
And I had
Yeah.
such a big fat crush on the youngest one. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
that is going to be my husband when I grow up, and then he wasn't. So.
Storm, I don't know if you'll remember this, but we had a lock-in at church and someone did that song. Like they performed it or something. Like Dishay, do you remember something with that
Mhm.
song at church? It was a lock-in in the middle of
At
the night.
church.
It was so weird to me.
I
that we
remember
were,
the
like,
lock-in.
sleeping over at church.
And I remember getting scared
Mhm.
because mom and some of the other like family friends came out like with like face masks on.
Face mask, yes,
and
and like hair
stuff.
curlers and
And I
stuff.
just remember,
yeah.
yes, and I just
Mhm.
remember being like, "What the fucking shit is this?" Like, and just getting scared.
You're not my
But I was
mom.
like, what, 3 or something? Like,
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
allowed to be scared, okay?
Right.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right. Well, I was telling you
wonder
guys
about that.
it was a long time ago, and I think about that a lot for some reason. Like I don't know why, but I really do think about that lock-in a lot. So something is going to come up when I'm like
Traumatizing
60, and it's
happening.
going to
Yeah.
be like a Raven Simone, like That's So Raven moment. Like
Oh yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I thought about that lock-in for years. Yeah, no idea. You guys, before we started, this story is really messed up. And I Googled
Cool.
vampire serial killers, and like the quotes that were coming out about this was really cool or were interesting. And so I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And then I started getting into like the real details of this. It throws me off and it's really hard to read. So we're going to get through this together.
Mm.
Yay.
And I'm going to warn you now, if you had a big dinner or if you've just eaten, you might want to wait until after your food has settled before you
Oh,
listen to me
all
tell
right.
the
I'm
story.
gonna head out. I will.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So this guy's name is Richard Chase, and that name sounded so familiar to me for many reasons. Yeah.
Why?
So Chase was a native to Sacramento, California. He was born shortly after his parents got married, and he had a younger sister, and her name was Pamela. Um, his Pamela. His parents were
It's Pamela.
yeah. His parents were very prone to arguing during his childhood. There was one camping trip in particular in Oregon, and his mother, Beatrice, accused her husband of having an affair with a woman that had been hiding in the bushes. That ruined the
What?
entire trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So by the age of 5, Chase privately exhibited it. Oh my goodness. Exhibited yeah,
Exhibited.
evidence of all 3 of the McDonald triad, a theory suggesting the development of violent psychopathy. Psychopath.
Oh.
Bed
Oh
wedding.
my,
Is that
okay.
right? Is that one of them?
So the
Let's
triad,
see if I can remember them all.
the triad links cruelty to animals,
Mhm.
obsession with fire setting, and persistent
I don't
bed
remember that
wedding
one.
past the age of 5.
Oh.
They
Oh, okay.
attribute those to violent behaviors, particularly homicidal behaviors. So if your kid is exhibiting these past the age of 5, it is very possible that you might want to get them to talk to somebody or to test it for something. Anything?
Get them tested for
Get them
for
tested.
something?
What did I say?
Yeah.
Homeopathy? What?
Exactly.
What is happening?
What's wrong with us?
I have no idea. We're going to be like this at the beginning of this episode. And then when I get into it, we are not going to be like this anymore. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
So these issues didn't really seem to bother him at all. His whole school life was pretty normal. There were over 60 kids at his birthday party, like when he was growing up. So he was a popular
Oh my
kid.
God.
It wasn't anything,
Wow.
yeah, crazy. But in his
I
adolescence,
don't even think I knew 60 kids.
Exactly. That's a
Dang.
lot. And this is like the 70s,
Well.
like the 60s and 70s. So who
Yeah.
knows? So in his adolescence, he did become a very heavy drug user. He would smoke a lot of weed and he would use LSD a lot. And this was pretty normal in the 60s and 70s. He was a teenager. So, I mean, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
As a teenager, Chase also discovered that he was impotent, which prevented him from having any sexual relations with women. One of Chase's first instances of strange behavior as an early teen occurred when he would tell people and he started to believe that he was a member of the James Younger gang. So that gang, it was like, you know what Peaky Blinders is?
Mhm.
It was that, but like it was kind of like cowboys basically, and they were like outlaws, and he like he was really into it, and he would tell people that he was part of that gang, and he was a teenager at this time, and they were in the 1800s, which is a little. So you see where it's not kind of connecting. He would even paste photos of his head onto photos of the gang, and tell people that it was him. He would try and sell them to people because they were like famous around where he was. And he would beg his mother for a cowboy hat, and she refused to ever get him one. So Chase would sometimes sleep in the family's lounge room. And when he did, he would make a habit of taking off all of his clothes. He would turn the heater on as high as it would go, and he would open all of the windows, and he would sleep in there.
What?
Okay.
Interesting.
So while
Mhm.
Chase was described as being popular and clean cut in his high school years, he started to become more withdrawn as he entered into adulthood, and he started basically like not taking care of himself. And he started growing out his
Okay.
hair. He had a beard. He dirty all the time. It was just kind of not great.
Yeah.
So Chase was able to get a girlfriend in high school, and they started dating around 1965. So nobody knows who she was really, but later she was given the name Libby Christopher. So we don't really know if that's who it actually was or not.
Yeah.
But they were unable to have sex for the first time because he's impotent. But the relationship, it continued, and finally, basically at the end, she was like, "You can't do this for me," so they split up in 1966.
Mm,
um, Once graduating from high school, Chase attended American River College between 1968 and 1971. His grades were declining, and he started just not going to classes, and so he finally just dropped out. Hypochondria as he matured. So there were a lot of different things that he would complain about, but there were a few that kind of were a pattern. So he would often complain that his heart would occasionally stop beating, or that someone had stolen his pulmonary artery. He
What?
would, yeah. So these are just things he started believing as he became an adult. He would
Yeah.
take oranges and he would hold them onto his head because he thought that the vitamin C from the oranges would be absorbed into his brain from diffusion.
Oh my God. That is so sad.
And, yeah, it's yeah. He also at all of the brain the bones, his cranial bones, he believed that they had all
Mhm.
separated in his head and that they were moving around. So he shaved his
Oh my
head so that
God.
he could watch the bones move.
Oh,
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
that's weird. What if that
Um,
was true? That would be weird.
that
would
would
hurt.
be wild.
Yeah.
It really would. So Chase worked first in a typing and phone answering job for Realtors Credit Association during 1969 while enrolled in the college. In the next few years, Chase continued to find odd jobs in Sacramento, but because he was using a lot of drugs at the time, none of them really lasted. So he was finding a lot of jobs, but he was losing them very quickly.
Yeah.
So Chase shared an apartment with two people, Sid Evans DeMarkey and Rachel Santum. Sorry, my cat's trying to get into my stuff. And that was in 1971. And he, shortly after he had dropped out of college. So he was not in college at the time. And so basically he was on the front lawn of these people's house, of their apartment complex, in a random day in February, and he began talking to these people, and he somehow convinced them that they need him as a roommate. So they let him live with.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Can you
Okay.
imagine just a man like sitting in your front lawn and he convinces you that you like he needs to live with you? Somehow he was able to.
How? Like, I would be
I-
like, listen, broski.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to hear how that went.
Yeah.
So Chase's parents were giving him $50 every month to help him with his share of the rent. DeMarkey and Santum both moved out due to Chase's strange behavior. He was so he was usually high. He was using drugs a lot. So he was usually high. And
Yeah.
anytime they had people over, he would make a point of walking around naked in their apartment. He would, yeah,
Oh
he
my
would
God.
often barricade himself in his room. And when they asked what he was doing, he would explain and tell them that he was hiding in there so that people couldn't sneak up on him. And that's why he locked himself in.
Oh my God.
Okay.
It's very sad.
Very.
It is. So later, Santom, the girl, her brother took over the apartment. Her brother and his band. They were in a rock band for the lease. So he was living with this rock band at the time. And he would try and interrupt their like sessions, like their jam sessions. And they're a rock band, and he would try and play conga with them. So he's trying to play like these little drums while they're playing like rock music, and he would interrupt them like a lot. He just didn't get that they weren't understanding what he was trying to bring to the table, basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I know this is going to sound horrible, but it literally sounds like a little kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
So he would do that enough that it would cause like major arguments in the apartment. And eventually he just ended up doing it anyways. So Santom's brother and his friends eventually just moved out, and they were like, we can't deal with this anymore. So Chase is there by himself, and he can't afford this rent. So by himself, he can't afford the rent, and then his parents tell him that they're getting a divorce. So in June of 1972, they get a divorce, and he started fighting with his mother very regularly, and they were pretty crazy fights. He believed that she was trying to poison him, and the reason some people believe that he thinks that is because when he was a kid, his mom used to their dad of poisoning her, which wasn't actually happening. So she would do it when they were kids. So now he's like, oh, well, this is what she's doing. So he thinks his mom is poisoning him. They just went through a divorce, and he doesn't know what to do. So during one lone trip to Utah in 1972, Chase was arrested for driving under the influence. And he told his parents that he had been gassed in the local jail and that he wanted to sue the jail. So his father bailed him out and finally convinced him that he wasn't going to sue the jail. Between living with his mother and his father, since they were both having a very difficult time with him, it kind of like it flipped back and forth. He would lash out at her for certain things and then lash out at him for certain things. So they never really were on the same page, and they had no idea what to do. They just didn't know what to do at this point.
Yeah.
When Chase's father kicked him out, neighbors would report him of standing on the property and blankly staring for extended periods of time. At this point, his father didn't believe that his troubles were from mental illnesses. He said that it was from a lazy work ethic and misguided values.
What? Oh my God.
Of course.
Sir.
Wow.
Having paranoia that you're gonna die because your mom's poisoning you,
Right.
somewhat for some reason thinking that you got poisoned in a jail is not just because you're lazy.
Exactly.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Putting oranges on your head to get vitamin C is not because you're lazy. Like, oh my God.
Exactly. It's yeah.
I hate this man.
It's tough, and the fact is that no one's really seeing any of this at this point. So he doesn't have the help that he needs. In late 1972, Chase's mother attempted to call the police on him during an argument. when suddenly Richard grabbed the phone and whacked her in the back of the head with it.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
She was still
No.
able to get the phone and call the police, and he ran outside and jumped over a fence. Said that she could press charges on her son if she wanted to, but she decided not to. So following
Yeah.
the incident, Chase was separate stints of living with his grandmother in Los Angeles, who also was like, y'all, I don't know what to do. So she started
Uh-huh.
noticing all of the interesting
Yeah.
behavior as well.
Okay.
During the first stay, Chase worked with his uncle, who was a bus driver for mentally ill children. He was fired shortly after he got the job because he refused to clean the bus and he would not change the oil on the bus. So apparently, like changing the oil, you had to drive it like across a parking lot and change the oil and then drive it back. And he didn't want to do it, so he didn't do it, and that was it. So that's how he
Now
lost.
that's just lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
So
a
this is-
difference. You see
yeah.
it?
yeah. This is also the
God.
70s. So like mental health back then
Yeah.
was not where it
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very taboo, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after getting fired from the bus job, he spent most of his days in bed. And he would also just walk around the house at night, just the whole night, just walking around the house.
Okay.
So he became convinced that someone was trying to enter his grandmother's house through one of the windows. So this is another reason why he was up all night.
Yeah.
His grandmother would hear him talking to himself, and she once found him standing on his head in the corner of the room. And when she asked him, like, he said that he had to get all of his blood back down to his head because it was coming out of his head at a rate that it wasn't
Oh
supposed to.
no.
So he was trying to get all of his blood
What?
back to his head.
Oh my God.
So he at this time, he also complained about his heart a lot. So you remember he thought someone stole part of his heart.
Mhm.
He would complain about his
Right.
heart hurting, and he would also talk about pains in his legs. During his second stint in Los Angeles, staying with his grandmother, he found a job working at a paint store, and he was also fired within a few days. Said that both his mental state and his physical appearance had deteriorated from the last time she had seen him. So he was starting to get skinny, he wasn't taking care of himself again, and she was starting to notice all of this stuff happening. Returns to Sacramento for good in the summer of 1973. He began cutting up photos of human organs from a medical book and pasting them all over his bedroom. So he did this because he said he wanted to find out what was wrong with him. So he was
my God,
surrounding
that's
himself with medical stuff.
Oh.
Around this time, Chase called an ambulance while he was at home, and they arrived with a stretcher as he requested. However, they refused to take him because he was not suffering from any kind of medical emergency. Chase later went to his mother, begging her to help with these supposed medical conditions. This is really hard for me. Like, if your kid comes begging to you that they're hurting and like there's actually nothing wrong and you can't, I can only imagine.
Right.
Basically, the way she responded was she got him a couple of doctor's appointments. So he went to a few different doctor's appointments, and they all told him the same thing. And he was dissatisfied with what they told him. They basically told him that there was nothing wrong with him because there was nothing wrong with him. Finally, they went to go see Dr. Donald Ansel. Ansel found that there was nothing physically wrong with him, but he had a psychiatric disturbance of major proportion. So there's just a random doctor telling you that he is very mentally ill and something needs to happen. So this is where it kind of starts getting a little crazy. So in 1973, Chase killed one of his cats when he had seen a television story about a cat that had received high quality medical treatments. He was jealous of the cat on TV.
Oh,
So he killed
oh
his
no.
Oh my God.
So
That's horrible.
at this point, he's institutionalized. So they put him into a hospital. Chase spent 2 days in a psychiatric ward in December of 1973 after walking into an emergency room of American River Hospital complaining of a variety of imagined ailments. So he's not just calling 911 anymore. He's going to the emergency room because he thinks he has these issues.
Yeah.
He said that he couldn't breathe, that his blood had stopped flowing through his body, and that he was currently suffering from cardiac arrest. He also mentioned that he had lost his pulmonary vein, which is the one that he said someone had stole before. Dr. Irwin Lyons noted in his report that Chase was tense, nervous, and wide-eyed, describing him as filthy, disheveled, a deteriorated, and foul-smelling white male. Obviously didn't like this guy very much, just from the notes that he wrote about him. Diagnosed Chase with acute paranoid schizophrenia, although that it was also possible that he was suffering from drug-induced psychosis, because LSD can do that.
Yeah.
So Chase was discharged when his mother confronted the psychiatric ward staff. In his reports, Lyons said she was highly aggressive, hostile, and provocative, adding that she was the so-called schizophrenic's mother. So she also does not believe that her son is schizophrenic.
What?
Not believe that he has mental issues. So
look, I get that would be very hard to accept and whatever, but you don't just be like, fuck you. Like, you at least try. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Exactly. After he had been discharged, his mental health, it started to improve over the next 2 years. And because he was taking his medication that he got from the hospital. He was also given an oxygen tank for his panic attacks, which he said helped a lot. So he had also gained 20 pounds. So he had started filling back out, and he started looking like a person again.
Good.
Chase's mother claimed that his mental state deteriorated once he started using illegal drugs again. However, his father said that that's not true. Chase's mother said that his mental state grew worse, and she would overhear him talking to himself just like his grandmother had. So he was kind of just like a shell of a person at this point. He had trouble signing his own name, and on 2 separate occasions, he ordered her to stop controlling his mind. Later, he would also accuse his sister of doing the same thing. So
sad.
Slapped his mother in the face, and he was arguing with her. She would call his dad, and that would send him into a full rage, and he would like destroy the house basically, because she didn't know what to do. So she was calling his dad like, what, like, you have to do something, and it would cause him to go into a rage.
That would be scary.
His mother at this time was accusing her ex-husband of just telling her son to do these things to her.
Are you serious?
What?
So she thinks that what he's doing is a ploy from her ex-husband to make her crazy.
That is the most ridiculous thing.
Oh, that's the most
Oh my
selfish
God,
thing I've
that
ever
is-
heard in my
Yes,
life.
Yeah.
so selfish.
So Chase became too much for either parent to handle. So they decided to get him his own apartment.
Oh
Which
my
is-
God.
What?
Oh,
Obviously-
no, where's work?
he needs right now. So
That's a bad idea.
Oh Lord.
in his apartment, Chase began riding his bicycle all over the place. And he found that down the road from his apartment, there was a rabbit farm. He would start to purchase these rabbits and he would consume the rabbits raw.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Okay. So
Chase-
I'm just gonna tell you right now. I thought I knew this story, but after you said that,
Mm-hmm.
I do know this story,
Yeah,
and I hate it.
it gets worse.
And oh my God, it's
Yeah.
about to get
It gets so
cuckoo for
much
Cocoa
worse.
Puffs up
Exactly.
in here. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my
Okay.
God, I'm gonna plug my ears.
Hold on.
Just buckle
Hold
up.
on. Hold on.
Buckle up.
Hold on. I need a lozenge. Hold on. You're gonna make me cough. Hold on.
You're making your throat hurt.
Oh my God, I just got really nervous. Like I'm like shaking now. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. When I started
gonna
doing
calm
these
down.
notes, I was like, oh, okay, like that's where it gets bad. I'm like, no, it's so much worse.
Yeah.
And it does not stop.
Yes.
So
Holy poopity pants.
So Chase kept his apartment relatively clean, just in general. And his dad would come over and they would play chess together. And so his dad came over and he had a bunch of rabbits around, and his dad was like, yo, dude, like, what's going on with the rabbits? And he was like, oh, I eat them. And so his dad, like, growing up with him and like hearing all of the stuff that's come out of his mouth, he didn't think twice about it. He didn't really think it was like a weird thing, basically, because of all the strange statements that have been in the past.
Okay, but like this isn't a strange statement. You literally see
Exactly.
the animals. Like it's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
just like a
They're
you're
there.
so silly. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Oh my God. Okay, so 1976, he was involuntarily committed to a mental institution for the second time. This occurred when he had taken to the emergency room. He had been taken to the emergency room again, but this time he had injected rabbit's blood into his own veins. His dad found him in his apartment. He was vomiting. He was barely able to move, and he had blood poisoning. So he was bad.
Yeah.
The emergency staff said that Chase gave them a bizarre story about eating a rabbit in which it had battery acid in its stomach, and that's why he thought he was sick.
Okay.
At this time, he is sent to American River Hospital Psychiatric Health Facility, and there he complained about heart weakness, and that his body was falling apart. He used to participate in any of the group activities. Eventually, he was transferred to Beverly Manor Psychiatric Hospital, and there the staff decided to give him a nickname of Dracula because of his fixation with blood.
Oh my God. Hopefully not to his face.
Wow. Right.
So while he's in this
Huh.
institution, he looks out the windows a lot, and somehow he was able to catch 2 birds, break their necks, and drink their blood
Oh my gosh.
What?
while he's in there. He was able to like
I
get through
hate
the
it.
bars or something somehow.
That's
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
one.
crazy.
That's crazy. 2, impressive. 3,
Yeah.
holy fucking shit,
Sorry,
bro.
my computer's.
Yeah.
I have to plug it in.
Hurry, go, plug it in.
Ah.
Listen, we are all
Goodness.
whole ass hot messes.
Yes, the entire thing. The entire thing. Okay, so not only did he catch birds out like in the window, he extracted blood from one of the therapy dogs. Somehow he had
What?
stolen
Oh.
syringes, and so like he was
What?
stealing blood.
How do you?
That's what he wanted. Was blood.
Okay.
So, after undergoing a battery of treatments involving psychotropic drugs, Chase was deemed no longer a danger to society. And later, in 1976, he was released into his mother's custody.
Oh my God.
Yet again.
OMG.
So,
Okay, anyone but her. Like,
Yeah,
Exactly.
not her.
Yeah. The mental institution staff disagreed with this decision, but it was brought down by a doctor. So all they needed was one doctor to sign off on it, and he was gone, and that was it. So the
Mhm.
entire staff was
Yeah.
like, "Nah, dude, like he still needs to be here." Shortly, one of the oh my goodness. Shortly after Chase's murders, one of the staff members told TV reporters that it was his turn to be released and that anything that they had to say about it was irrelevant. And she specifically thought that he was sick and dangerous. So they weren't listening to anybody. And it was this one doctor that was like, no, he's good. Without consulting doctors, Chase's mother weaned him off of all of his medications. The reason she
What?
did this,
No.
because he was acting like a zombie and she didn't like it. So she took him off of all of his medications.
Oh my lord.
My God.
So the next logical step was to get him an apartment, his own apartment again.
Okay.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh. I hate
Right.
this woman
Let's
too.
do that.
I hate all these people.
Stupid.
So he has his own space now. And at this point, he progressed from eating rabbits and birds to eating dogs.
Oh,
Um,
God.
No.
He would purchase puppies, hang them in his apartment.
No.
Stop
He
it.
would
Mm-mm.
cut
Mm-mm.
open their stomachs and drink their
Nope.
blood and eat their insides raw.
Oh God.
I told you guys.
A puppy?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw up.
Yeah, it's hard to hear. Chase's neighbor, Don Larson, said that he would aimlessly just walk around the apartment complex with his mouth open, and he would not respond to her when she would say hello to him.
That would be
Wow.
terrifying to see.
Very.
Exactly. She would also remember seeing him bring dogs and cats into the apartment, even though pets were not allowed in the apartment. And then she would just never see them again. Initially, he only allowed his mother into his apartment. But at a certain point, he said, no, you can't come in here anymore. And whenever he would need to talk to her, he would talk to her through the door. So he wouldn't, like, she couldn't even see into the apartment, basically.
Wow.
So later investigation uncovered that in mid 1977, Chase was stopped and arrested in a Native American reservation in Pyramid Lake, Nevada area. He was naked and his body was smeared with blood, and there was a bucket with a liver found in his truck. So the police get there and they think this is a homicide. They think someone's been murdered.
Yeah.
So reported that Chase had a dog with him earlier in the day. And when questioned by the police on the scene, Chase claimed that the blood was seeping out of him and that he didn't know what happened to the dog. They tested the blood, and the blood was a cow's blood, and no charges were filed.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
How is he not severely ill from eating all these animals?
Right. That's what I want to know.
Also, why are you gonna? I get you're not gonna charge him because he didn't do anything illegal.
Take him somewhere
that you can find evidence for.
I mean, public indecency. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Exactly.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
What?
Okay. So Chase purchased a 22 caliber pistol in late 1977.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, he had to lie about his mental issues in order to purchase this. So
Uh-huh.
his neighbors would say that soon after he got the gun, they would hear gunshots coming from his apartment. And
Oh my god.
Chase later claimed that he was shooting the voices that he heard.
Oh
And
no.
there's
That
there's
is
bullet
so.
holes in his apartment that corroborate the story. So he would hear
Okay.
voices and he would shoot at them. Chase continued killing and eating dogs. After small dogs, including Labrador puppies, he tried to steal a large Saint Bernard from a residence, but was unsuccessful.
Oh no.
So on December 29th of 1977, Chase killed his first known human victim in a drive-by shooting. The victim, Ambrose
God.
Griffin, was 51-year-old engineer and a father of two.
It's
The
horrible.
shooting baffled police, who viewed it as a random and motiveless crime. Chase claimed that in the leading up to the murder, he was mad at his mom because she was not letting him come to her house for Christmas. She said that she wouldn't let him come to her house because his sister was scared of him. And the reason his sister was scared of him was because he had ripped apart a cat in front of his mother during an argument and smeared the blood all over his body.
Actual
Oh my god. And she doesn't think that he needs
She
medication?
doesn't.
right.
Yeah.
And she took
Yes.
and she took him out of the
Oh my god.
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 weeks after the Griffin murder, he attempted to enter the home of a woman, but the doors were locked. So he walked away. Chase went on to tell detectives that he would look at locked doors as a sign that he was not welcome. But if the door was unlocked, it was an invitation for him to come inside, which is also the vampire thing. On one occasion, he was caught and chased off by this couple returning home. He was leaving their house, and they caught him as they were coming into the house.
Oh my god.
So
Oh my god.
he was stealing things, and he had also urinated and defecated on their infant child's bed and clothing.
No.
Oh my god.
He
Could you imagine if that infant was home?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. He broke into another unoccupied house and attempted to set fire to one of the drapes. Chase later said that he believed that the residents of that house were spying on him, and he needed them to leave the neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay.
Gosh.
So, on January 23rd of 1973, Chase broke into a house and shot Teresa Wallen, who was 3 months pregnant at the time.
No.
She had been taking out the trash, and he shot her in the hand as she attempted to protect herself. He then shot her in the cheek, breaking her jaw before shooting her in the head, rendering her unconscious. Intercourse with her corpse while stabbing her in the stomach with a butcher knife from the kitchen.
Oh my god.
No.
Moved multiple organs, cut off one of her nipples, drank her blood through a yogurt cup he had found in the trash bag, and stuffed dog feces from their yard into her throat before leaving.
Jesus
It was also
Christ.
determined that she was still alive during some of this.
Oh
No.
my god.
She did not die from the gunshot.
Oh my god.
Wallen's body was discovered by her husband. Her husband is a truck driver.
Oh my God.
He had just gotten home from work.
No. Oh my God.
Police called to the scene were told that a victim had been shot and opened up with a knife. Detective Wayne Irie added it was a horrific homicide because not only had he killed her, but she was pregnant at the time and killed her unborn child. Officer Frank Davidson remembered in 2010, I've been to a lot of homicide scenes and took a lot of pictures and done a lot of evidence, but this is one of the strangest I have ever seen. You don't see every day people being cut up and moving around intestines. You just don't see things like that. From an officer that's seen a bunch of things, and he's like, you just don't. It doesn't happen like this.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Chase later told a psychiatrist that he spent the rest of the day at his apartment watching TV.
Okay.
Following days, Chase had a phone conversation with his mother. And in this conversation, she said that he talked about rocket ships and little green men. He's deteriorating in front of everybody, and no one is doing anything about it.
No.
Which is wild to me. 27th, Chase enters the home of 38-year-old divorced Evelyn Myroth and proceeded to murder everyone inside the building. Only semi-conscious for when it happened, so what actually happened is unclear. Like, no one actually knows what happened. So near the door, he encountered Myroth's friend, Dan Meredith. Meredith was introduced to Myroth through her sister and was being treated for a brain tumor at the time. So Chase shot him twice in the head. He also fatally shot Myroth and her 6-year-old son, Jason, and her 22-month-old nephew, David, before mutilating
Oh my God.
and engaging in necrophilia and cannibalism with her corpse. Not stop. So
this is bad.
Like with Wallen, Chase cut open the organs of Myroth. In addition, he repeatedly stabbed her in the anus and attempted to cut one of her eyes out. Is like very messed up. So there was semen found in the anus that he had stabbed. He was impotent when he was a teenager, which means that he was able to do this, basically.
Oh my God.
22-month-old child that was there. He also decided to stab the child in the same way that he stabbed the woman. He then cut a section of the back of his skull and drank his blood.
Oh my God.
Evidence suggests that he shot the child in the head while he was still in the crib. And Evelyn's corpse was dragged to the bed from where it had been found. So there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. There was a bathtub full of blood, meaning that Evelyn might have been in the bathtub whenever he got into the house. Evelyn was the 6-year-old girl. While the mutilations were occurring, 6-year-old Tracy Grangard began knocking on the door because her and her family were supposed to take a day trip with Myroth. On the door while he's murdering everybody that's in here. Chase said that the knock on the door startled him, so he took the baby and left.
Took the baby.
That was his first reaction, was to grab the baby and leave. So he fled in Meredith's car and his body back to his apartment. He went on to decapitate and consume the brain of the child, claiming that he did it because he was hungry.
What?
How is he still alive, eating and consuming all of this?
Yes, that's what I want to know. So, the family of the little girl that knocked on the door called the police because no one answered the door. So the police were called, and Dan Meredith was in a pool of his own blood in the doorway as the police entered. Sacramento detective Ray Bondi discovered Myroth's residence described Myroth's residence as a house of carnage, and said that it was difficult to see a 6-year-old like that because he also had a 6-year-old around that time.
Couldn't imagine.
Horrific.
So Jason Myroth was the 6-year-old. And Jason was wearing new clothes because he was supposed to go on that day trip with his neighbors. Police found Evelyn Myroth's mutilated corpse spread out on the bed. They noticed that the baby was missing from the crib. Maybe the baby was still alive because he wasn't there. That the murderer had left complete handprints and shoe imprints in Myroth's blood, and due to the nature of the murder, immediately connected it to the Wallen slaying. So that he attacked the pregnant woman, they were able to put it together pretty quickly. In both murders, Chase had been wearing an orange ski parka that his father had recently bought for him. Neighbors later reported that a disheveled, long-haired man in an orange ski parka had been knocking on their doors leading up to the Myroth murder, and he had been asking for old newspapers.
Oh my God.
Created a sketch of the suspect, and Nancy Westfall, an old high school acquaintance of Chase, later told police that a man in an orange ski parka had approached her while she was shopping. Didn't recognize him because his appearance had changed so much from when he was a teenager. But she did note that he had bloodstains on the white shirt under the parka, and he had yellow crust encircled around his mouth. His dirty appearance and strange behavior unsettled her, and so she locked her car door and drove off when he asked her for a ride. This happened shortly before the Wallen murder. So Chase was arrested after this woman, and they were able to do a background check. They were able to check his background. Police who searched Chase's apartments found that the walls, floor, ceiling, refrigerator, and all of Chase's eating and drinking utensils were soaked in blood. Collars were also found along with rotting organs, which were determined to belong to animals as victims. Gun magazines, psychology magazines, and a book titled Psychic People. And he had circled classified ads for people that were selling dogs.
Oh, wow.
Of the Wallen and Myroth murders, Chase had written the word today on his calendar. And the word today was written on his calendar more than 44 times throughout 1978.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So at first, Chase wouldn't let police into his apartment. So they loudly spoke outside of his apartment so that everybody around could hear. And they also pretended that they were leaving. So it worked. And it got him to open up his apartment. So when Chase saw police, he initially tried to run from them and resisted arrest, but was then tackled by them. And it wasn't known whether the baby was still alive or not. And they said that they had contemplated shooting him, but they weren't sure if the baby was still alive or not, so they didn't shoot him.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
In 2010, that's when I found out I'm not like him. Even though it would have been a good, it would have been a good shooting. It would have been a justified shooting. I couldn't kill him. I couldn't justify it. Once captured, Chase was uncooperative with police, claiming that he had only killed some dogs and that he was being framed by the Italians.
Lord.
That the murders had been committed by a blonde man in an orange jacket, and that someone had been coming in and out of his apartment. So when they asked him, who do you think it was? He was like, it's a blonde man wearing this orange jacket, but he's also been coming in and out of my apartment. It would take until March of 1978 for the police to find the baby. And he was in a garbage bin. He was in a box that had been placed in a garbage bin. After his January 1978 capture, he was interviewed by a psychiatrist, and he only went into vague detail about his mental history, so he wouldn't give them any information about what had actually happened to him. When they asked what was on his mind, he wouldn't really give them anything. He wouldn't answer it. So they decided they're going to rephrase the question. And they would ask him what was on the screen on his mind. Like he was watching TV in his brain. And what he responded was normal things and an exploding 747 jetliner. Them kind of like a look into his brain that he doesn't see things like everybody else.
Yeah.
He also said that he saw lights in the sky that might be UFOs, and incorrectly claimed that he was Jewish and that he was beaten up by gangs of Italians because of his ethnicity. He was not Jewish. So
that had to be from a movie.
Yeah.
Or something.
1979, Chase stood trial on 6 counts of murder. Due to his delusion of being a persecuted Jew, Chase wanted a lawyer from the Jewish Defense League, and the motion had been denied. So his defense attorney would end up being Ferris. I don't know how to say this, but it's spelled like salami, so I'm going to say salami.
That might be it. It could
ended
be.
up being Ferris Salami, who was the son of Lebanese migrants to the Sacramento area. In awaiting trial, Chase claimed that his food was being poisoned. Yet again. So defense attorney, he wanted to get his food tested. And so they did. They tested his food and it came back negative. So in order to avoid the death penalty, the defense tried him, found guilty of second-degree murder, which just has a life sentence. So their case hinged on Chase's mental illness, his history of mental illness, saying that was the cause of all of these crimes. So Ferris Salami remembered in 2010 that Chase was the most deranged person he had ever met, and that this case was one of mental disease. So he firmly believed that that's all it was.
Yeah.
In more interviews with psychiatrists during the trial, Chase admitted his guilt, saying, "I didn't kill anybody, just a few people." He remembered very little from the Myroth family murder, and heard very little from the Wallen murder. He would later tell psychiatrists that he was a sick person. he was poisoned by iodine and mercury. To get free of the poisoned place that he had to go live, which was his grandmother. So he was trying to get this out of his body, but he was trying to leave, basically, and that's why he had to kill these people. Chase acknowledged that he needed blood, saying that he'd gone to several places to get some, but was unable to. He believed that his lack of blood was preventing him from living a normal life. This thing I have ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chase claimed that the blood from animals hadn't helped him, explaining that I couldn't cope with the world anymore because every time I tried to get up and act like a human being, I couldn't because of my weakness. I went on welfare and got in Beverly Manor, so is pending, I guess. It doesn't seem like he really knows what's going on.
He has no idea.
No.
idea.
Clueless.
And it's horrifically sad.
Yes. Yeah. He went on to plead not guilty by reason of temporary insanity, and requested that he be seen by a heart specialist because of his stolen pulmonary artery. The jury that he was a good person, but he had a weak heart and a weak mind. Said that he was afraid that his victims were going to come back from the dead to get him. His husband was involved in the trial, giving a victim impact statement. One day during the trial, Chase's mother confronted him and criticized their German Shepherd for not protecting her on the day of the
Oh my God. She has lost her damn mind.
So his mother is saying that it's their dog's fault that she got murdered. So
what a bitch.
Oh my God, I hate that woman.
This comment left Wallen stunned. He was speechless. So he responded by saying, if you would have raised your son correctly, then we all would have been protected.
Wow. Good.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly.
On May 8th of 1979, the jury found Chase guilty on 6 counts of first-degree murder, rejecting the argument that he was not guilty by reason of insanity. They sentenced him to die in the gas chamber, which is kind of ironic because he said that he had been gassed in that when he was arrested. His fellow inmates, aware of the extremely violent and grisly nature of his crimes, feared him, and they often wouldn't talk to him. Prison officials would say that some inmates would try and get him to commit suicide.
Oh my God.
Described as behaving psychotically from the moment he entered into prison. He was.
Wonder why?
Exactly.
What?
He was briefly housed in the mental health facility. His death, Chase granted a series of interviews with Robert Ressler, during which he spoke of his fear of Nazis and UFOs. That although he had killed, it wasn't his fault. He was being forced to kill to keep himself alive. So he's saying that the aliens and the Nazis are doing all of this to him. He even would ask his interview for access to a radar gun. He could apprehend the Nazi UFOs and would be protected from the Nazis. So,
if that does not scream mental illness, and that
thank you.
Like I don't like what is happening.
Chase again claimed that he was Jewish, and now said that he had a Star of David symbol in his forehead, or a large amount of macaroni and cheese, which he had been hoarding in his pants pockets, believing that the prison officials were in league with the Nazis and attempting to kill him by poisoning his food. 26th of 1980, Chase was found dead in his prison cell. Revealed that he had died from an overdose of Seroquel, which was an antidepressant, which he had been prescribed. Had secretly been hoarding the pills from everybody. But the exact reason for his apparent suicide, nobody knows. Is the story of the vampire Richard Chase.
That's
Yeah.
It was the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
the
Yes.
worst.
I can't do this anymore. I don't understand why.
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't.
listen, that's the one I told you. Remember that I was like, that story's effed up, and that I like had to lock my windows and my doors when I got home. Like I was terrified.
That's the
Yes.
one.
First time I
Okay.
heard it, and
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot not have my things locked because someone's gonna think that it's okay to come
Yes.
inside my house and murder
Yeah.
my family. Like,
That, like, what I feel like when a lot of people hear that story, they're like, it's really fucked up. He was a horrible person, which, like, yes, it was really fucked up. But at the same time, if you look at the mental health aspect of it, he could have been helped a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
that his
If
mother
his-
was a piece of fucking shit.
Yeah,
And honestly, his dad was too. Like, not to blame
Yeah,
it all
exactly.
on her.
Yeah,
He also
yeah.
was.
right. I just
They all failed him.
don't
failed
get it.
him.
Oh
Everything.
my God.
The doctors when he was in the mental institution, the
Yeah.
fucking police officers that said this isn't illegal, I'll just let you go. Like all
Exactly.
of it. Everybody just
Exactly.
overlooked it.
Yeah. But like when we see it from like the outside, I always hear these stories and I'm like, how did they not see it? How did they not see it? How did they not see it? But we're looking at it as an overarching story. Well, they were involved in it. But at the same
Right.
time, if these things are happening and he's looking at you and telling you these things, if someone were to come up to me and tell me some of the things that I'm sure he was saying, I would try everything I could to get them the help they needed.
Right.
Exactly.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, then they're just like, what is that phone call that you had after he murdered people? Oh, he talked about rocket ships and little green men. And you
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
this is a normal conversation.
Yeah.
Or you walk into his house and you see dead rabbits everywhere and you
Right.
think, oh, that's normal.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Exactly. And
Just-
they were
I can't.
they were just getting rid of him. They couldn't deal with him. They didn't know how to deal with him. So instead of getting him help, they just gave him apartments and let him deal with it.
Right.
It was
Mm-mm.
completely fucked from the beginning.
Hated that. Good
Well,
job. I
I
wouldn't have
hope-
been able to say that out loud.
Yeah.
It
Good
was
job.
hard.
We're
have-
good.
I have had to
couldn't.
read this multiple times because it was
Nope. No,
tough.
no thanks.
Yeah, that's hard.
All
That
right.
was a hard one.
well.
Yeah, we're
If
done.
anybody is still with us, Scorn, where can they find our not? The rest of this is not that
As
bad, I promise.
Crazy. I feel like we really only have like, I mean, not to say that all murders aren't bad, but there are
Right.
really like a handful that are like absolutely horrific. That
I feel like
right.
I told most of them, and there was one that Storm told that was really, really bad. And those are the only ones that I remember.
I think I've blocked them all out of my brain.
Exactly.
Like I immediately went to the one that I did with the Australian lady
Yes. Yeah.
that murdered her
Uh-huh.
husband and ate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
no.
why. That wasn't even the worst out of all of them. But
Right.
anyway, where you can find us, where you can hear about all these horrible, horrific things. We are on Facebook, Three Siblings Walk Into a Bar. We are on Instagram at Three Swib Podcast. Go on there, like, comment, do all the things. We are also on YouTube. Please go watch us on YouTube. You can comment and like and subscribe and do all the things on there also. And please, please, please rate and review. It's super, super helpful for us. And yeah.
Well, that's what happens when three siblings walk into a bar.